We are going to start our meeting this morning. Good morning, everyone. I'm so happy to see a few of you that are visiting us for the first time. It's very nice to meet you. Welcome. We are going to start our meeting doing an initial prayer. And the meeting today will be a little different than our usual format. So we'll be celebrating Easter today. So I invite you all to close your eyes so we can do our prayer by saying, Dear Father, we're here today gathered in your name with immense joy in our hearts. We're here today to celebrate life, to celebrate Easter, to celebrate all the things that we have that are given to us, the blessings of life, to celebrate our faith, to celebrate each other. We're here to thank you for all the blessings that we're given in each and every moment, and also for the opportunity to be here in this small center to talk about Spiritism, to talk about your gospel, to talk about the meaning of our lives. We ask you to please be with us. Allow the good spirits, our mentors and benefactors, to be with us, embracing each one of us in this moment, inspiring us so we can deliver the message with clarity and love, and that this message can reach deep inside our souls and help us to live here today with more reasons to celebrate life and to have joy in our hearts. Again, we thank you very much for this opportunity. We ask you to bless each one of us, and so be it.
So be it. Amen.
Morning. So again, good morning, everyone. Today, you see me with this microphone. It's not because it's anything fancy. We're starting to record some of the lectures, getting back to a work that we were doing before, reproducing them and having them available so people can, if they want to listen to the lectures again. So we'll be doing that more often. In any case, I'm going to ask Biga to turn the music off, please. It's nice, but it's distracting me. Okay, so we are going to talk about Easter. And when we think about Easter, we think about Jesus Christ, and we think about the resurrection. But before I get to it, if someone would come to me today and ask me if I could summarize Christ's message, the entire gospel, in 2 words, what these words would be, I would say they would be love and immortality. I think that what makes Jesus Christ so huge, and actually the divisor of times, and actually I like to think of him like the midday of our lives, is the fact that he came to teach us about love in a way that even today we really don't know what he meant exactly, because he came and he invited us to love our enemies. And we are here trying to figure out how to love our friends, how to love our family members. And 2,000 years ago, he was here telling us to love our enemies. So he brought us a message of love, of unconditional love, that should be the goal of our lives, that, like I said, we have a very difficult time to understand. He speaks about love in unconditional ways, in a much deeper way, in a much broader way that we can understand. But in addition to speaking about love and teaching us And let me just say, he not only spoke about love, but he was love in every single interaction. So he lived the message of love himself. But he also came to talk about us, about the real meaning of life. And how he did that, he told us that we are immortal spirits. He told us that our essence is a spiritual one. And he told us that we are going to live forever. He told us that there is no death, only the death of the physical body. And he not only spoke about that, after he died, he came back to show us that he was very much alive. That the only thing that had really died was that physical body. So he comes to teach us about our true nature, the fact that we are immortal spirits, the fact that we are immortal beings. And so he teaches us that no one dies. He comes back when we were like, as a people of the time, probably feeling abandoned, lonely, in despair, and he comes to tell us that he was there still with us, and to pretty much reassure to us one of the key points of his message, which was that his kingdom was not from this world. In other words, really what we should live for is to the other world, which is the real world, which is the world that speaks to the essence of who we are. Okay, so this is pretty much, if I could summarize in 2 words what I would say about his message. Going back to Easter, we know that Easter for our brothers and sisters who are in the Jewish faith means passage. Passage from slavery in Egypt to freedom in the Promised Land. And what is it for Christians? I mean, we talk about resurrection, so we can think of it also as a passage. A passage from one moment of our lives to another moment of our lives. A passage from life in the organic body to life in the spiritual body. And we know from the moment that we are born that each one of us is going to go through this passage. But a lot of us, many of us, live our lives as if this truth is some sort of fantasy story that, you know, someone told us when we were little, just like any other, you know, children's story, something that So we live it like it's a fantasy. Or if we believe that we are immortal, we seek immortality in wrong ways. In other words, we try to be immortal in an organic body. We want to live forever. But when we say that we want to live forever, it means that we want to be what? 240 years old in this body? Right? So we are seeking to increase the longevity of our lives so we can maybe live forever in a body that's material, that is transforming, that's aging. We can spend millions on trying not to age, but we will age regardless, because we cannot fight the transformation of the body. It's the law of nature. Everything that's matter will transform itself, will deteriorate, will come to an end. So we either try to not to think about that, or we try to be immortal in the wrong way. But we do that because we fail to understand what our true nature is. It's a spiritual nature. Yes, we will live forever. Our spirit will. Our essence will. Once we're out of this envelope, this physical body, the spirit will go on. Whole, divine, unique, loving, vibrating, thinking, relating, growing. Life goes on. Absolutely. but not in the physical body, in the spiritual body. And why do we have such a big issue with dying? Joana de Angelis' spirit tells us through the mediumship of Divaldo Franco that it goes way back then when we live in the caves, the primate man live in the caves, and when one of the persons from the tribe, from that group who died, the other ones would be there witnessing the decomposition of the physical body. And all they knew is that that person was there one day and then was no longer there, and they would see with their eyes their body being decomposed, transforming. And so it's a pretty terrifying thing to see and not pleasant. And so we have within ourselves this idea of the decomposition of the body being truly the end of who we are. But when Christ came, He came as to teach precisely that it's not like this. And there is some ideas that I really like as I was putting this talk together and I was thinking about them. One of these ideas is that the opposite of life is not death. We like to think of life and death as opposites, but truly, the opposite of life from the spiritual perspective is rebirth. So we are living in a physical body, and dying is nothing more than a passage, a rebirth into the real life. A life that's much more full, that's much more vibrant actually than the life that we live inside the physical body. And there are some traditions that really believe and actually saw and see birth in the physical body as a death. Because once we enter the physical body, we enter a world of limitation, of shadows, a world that is bounded by matter. And so for the spirit, in a way, it's a little bit of a death. While when we die, it's really entering real life. It's freedom. The spirit is able to think, to feel everything more wholly, everything with a lot more energy and awareness than when the spirit is inside the physical body. So when we think of the issue of life and death from this perspective, which is a very different perspective from from a materialistic perspective, then there is a huge shifting paradigm in the way that we see life, in the way that we think about life, and in the meaning of life. Because now we know that we don't die, life goes on. We understand that this life here is a journey. It's a short trip. It feels long, but it's actually short in the face of eternity. So we come here in this short trip. This short trip is only a link in a chain of succession of lives that we're going to undergo. And in this trip, we're here to build relationships. We're here to build love. Love that will never end. Relationships that will never come to an end. And one thing that we must learn as we perceive life this way is there's nothing permanent in our lives. Nothing. That's a very tough thing for us to learn. Everything is always changing. There is one thing that's permanent, and we're going to get to what's permanent. But really, everything is always changing, and I'm going to get into it a little bit more. But when we believe in the life of the Spirit and that our essence is a spiritual one, then the psychological meaning of life now becomes the conquest of immortality. We're here to transcend matter and to conquer immortality, conquer eternity. So, when we are living inside the body with this awareness of life and rebirth, not life and death anymore, understanding that this reality that we're in is not our ultimate reality, it's just something temporary, then we're going to see that death, as we think of it, is not something positive nor it is negative. It's just a natural phenomenon, like I was saying before, that allows us to go from one realm of energy to another realm of energy. With these concepts in mind, the way we're going to live our lives has to be different. All our investments, and I'm not talking about financial investments, I'm talking about emotional, psychological, intellectual, all our investments should be done considering this reality, the spiritual reality. So wherever we are in life, if we are thinking of politics, if we're thinking of our relationships, if we're thinking of our work, all the choices that we make in our lives, we must have this reality in the back of our minds. All here is transient, and we are here to experience things, to grow, to learn, to take us to another level of enlightenment. So the goal is for us to achieve enlightenment, to develop the God that we all are and we all have within us. And when we think of the path to enlightenment, I'm going to expand the idea of passage. We started by talking about passage from one life to another life. But as we go through life and the path for enlightenment, many different things are going to happen in our lives. We're going to face many different challenges, many obstacles. And each one of these obstacles become a chance for resurrection in our lives. Each one of these obstacles become a chance for us to transcend, to transform, and to grow. So the ultimate goal of our journey is to make our life a succession of resurrections, where the old one of us dies a little bit so the new one can appear, can take over. And we're going to talk about that. It's very difficult for us to accept this. I don't know about you, but I would like to keep everything in my life exactly the way it is right now and not make any major changes because I don't know exactly what's going to be if I make changes. I'm afraid of what it's going to happen. Also, it takes effort. It takes probably a little bit of a crisis in order to change. So a lot of times we don't want to change. We really want to keep things the way they are. It's more comfortable. It's easier in a way, but it won't grant us the peace that we're after. It won't grant us the enlightenment that we are destined to achieve. We must move. We must accept that challenges will come in our lives. Things are going to poke us out of our inertia. Things are going to push us to seek greater awareness so we can move, so things can change, so Easter can occur within us. Nothing in life is permanent. The first transient thing that happens is we're born. We're born. Tough passage, like I said. We come into matter. We're born little, right? So all intellectual achievements, spiritual achievements from past lives, they go into a sleeping stage so we can start developing. It needs to wait for the brain to develop in order for the intellectual capacity to manifest itself again. It needs to wait for the limbic system to develop in order for the emotional self to be able to express itself again. Tough passage for the spirit. Then we're going from being a little child to become a teenager. Tough passage in our lives, right? We are now trying to figure out who we are. These are passages that we all, as human beings, have to undergo and that help us to grow, help us in our enlightenment process. Then we become adults, supposedly mature people, right? And we have to take full responsibility of our lives. For some of us, easier. For some of us, harder. And then becomes that phase that we are trying to avoid, which is we don't want to be old, right? We have to deal with the wrinkles. We have to deal with a number of things that, we rather not. Tough passage for many people. People come to retirement. They get deeply depressed. The retirement phase, the aging phase, is a great opportunity for spiritual enlightenment. It's a great opportunity that talks about passage and crisis. Because now, if you can no longer work in the way that you used to work, you're invited to be. You're invited to find worth in being and not only in doing. You're invited to be more quiet because you're not rushing anymore. You must live with yourself. You must deal with your emotions, which for 40, 50 years while you work, you didn't care to listen to because you're too busy doing, which is a very, very nice defensive way of living and not acknowledging who you are and what you feel. So this is a tough passage in our lives. But passages are moments where we are invited, life is inviting us to look at where we are, get to know who we are. It's inviting us to actually jump into a crisis state, because really that's what happens, especially when we are invited to leave behind some of our belief systems, some of our values, some of the ways that we have been living, and move to something new, move to something better. But we don't know it's better until we're able to transcend, until we're able to pass. So every time a crisis, every time a challenge comes in our life, it's time for Easter. It's time to reflect, to get to know who you are. It's time to perhaps let some of the things that don't serve you anymore behind and move forward to something new. It's tough. It's not easy, but it's worth it. It's worth it. For the ones who have the courage to do and the faith to know that something better is going to come, it's totally worthwhile. But in order to transcend, in order to reach enlightenment, we must go through these Easters in our lives. And so we're going to have these major events. They're always changing, right? Inviting us to change. And then we have individual occurrences in our lives that minds are different than bigger, because we have different spiritual needs. So she's going to face a number of challenges in her life. They're going to speak to her needs, her educational needs, her therapeutic needs in terms of the growth that she needs to do. And I'm going to have my challenges. What are these challenges? The loss of a job, the loss of someone that we love. It doesn't need to be a new job opportunity that comes to you and you won't take it because you're paralyzed by the fear of something that you don't know. So a difficult person in our families. There's so many different challenges that we face individually that invite us to do this passage, this transformation in our lives. And I always like to warn people that when the challenges come, in order for Easter truly occur within you, it's important that you identify the challenge outside of us, outside of you, but most importantly, that you identify what is the challenge within you. And let me explain that. Anne and I, we may have a very similar situation in our families, which is a difficult relative. We both have it, right? Okay, a difficult relative. Now, the external situation is absolutely the same, but her Easter process is different than mine. It has to do where she's at, her emotions, her ability to deal with that situation, and my ability to deal with that situation. How she's going to cope and how I'm going to cope. This is what makes the process. So everybody in life is going to have difficulties. Everybody in life is going to have challenges. But we should not stop on the identification of the challenges outside of us. That might help just to say, hey, I have a problem. But the real problem is never outside of us, it's within us. It's how we're dealing with that problem that we need to work on. And that has to do with where we are emotionally and where we are spiritually. Like I said, it's not this Easter process, it's not an easy process in the life of anyone. And Joana de Angelis, she says something in a book that unfortunately is not in English, but I want to read to you. Let me just find here. Okay, she speaks that each moment of resurrection is equivalent to the act of moving from the shadow within to the clarity of awareness, overcoming ignorance to the achievement of knowledge, overcoming fear to the conquest of faith and safety. And then I want to also cite to you a passage from John the Evangelist when he stated that God is love. He said God is love, and I really, really love this idea that I'm going to share with you. By saying that God is love, He established for us the paradigm of real permanency in our lives. The non-permanency of our lives, of everyone and everything, of birth and death, will come to an end one day when each one of us, spirits that we are, will become free of the need to come and to go into corporeal life, and we're going to reach the plenitude of awareness, and we're going to be able to contemplate the permanency of God. So the only thing that's really permanent in our lives is God and God's love. The more that we can accept that, the better we are going to live. In the meantime, why we are needing to grow? Why are we in the path of enlightenment? Nothing's going to be permanent. Because if we live in an environment where things are permanent, it can't be growth. In order for us to grow, life needs to be moving. Things need to be happening, coming and going. We must have and not have, especially in this planet, so we can learn where the real life is. We can learn what's real and what's not real. So we are going to live always in this state where we don't have really full control of our lives. We cannot have. Things are going to come, challenges are going to come. Like I said, we're going to have something one day, we're not going to have something another day, because it must be this way for us to keep learning, for us to keep growing and developing the divine within us. But this is going to come to an end one day. The more we align ourselves with God, the more we develop these virtues within ourselves, the closer we come to understand God, the closer we come to live love, the more permanence we're going to have in our lives. The closer we get to God, the closer we get to contemplate God, things are going to settle within us. It's not a boring life, but it's going to be a life where things are going to be less shaken. Right now, it needs to be shaken. And for us to survive, we need to do like the frail little plant in the midst of a storm. When the storm hits, sometimes it is the most frail of all the plants that will survive, because it bends. It bends. The ones who try to stand strong and still, who lack flexibility, will break. Will break. It's the same thing with our bodies. Claudinha is here, won't let me lie. We need to remain flexible. If we're not flexible, we tear, we break. And the same thing with life. Sometimes the storm comes and we bend down. Because there's only so much that we can do. We bend down with our faces down, with our spirit down, but with our faith up high. And we say to God, this is a very tough time. And I don't know exactly what to do. But give me the wisdom to be able to see what I need to learn. Give me the wisdom to let go everything they're preventing me from being happy. And allow me to see what's the new path, what is your wish for me. Give me the wisdom to die if necessary so I can be born stronger, with more awareness, with more consciousness. Because one thing is for sure, we can't do this alone. A lot of times, we want to have full control of our lives, but no one has full control of their own lives. God is always on control. It's that little story that I like to tell, and forgive me if you already heard it, that there's this little boy in the airplane, and he's traveling alone next to a man, and a really huge storm hits during the flight, and everybody's panicking, and people are freaking out, and the boy remains super calm. And the man next to him is observing him. And things are just getting worse by the minute. And people are like screaming, shouting, and all that confusion inside the plane. And the man finally turns to the boy and says, "Aren't you scared?" And he says, "No, my father's the pilot." And so this is where the faith comes in, right? Our Father is the pilot, is in control of our lives. And we must trust that and not fear, and not fear. And the more we can be flexible in life, the more we can accept the necessity to change, and the more we can engage ourselves into this work of transformation, the sooner we have peace, the sooner we have the permanency, the stability, the harmony that we are here seeking for. So this is the message that I would like to share with you today. And I would like to hear from you too. What's your, anyone wants to share anything, any thoughts, any ideas? Isn't Easter a beautiful holiday? I love it. I love this idea. This idea of Easter within, it's a beautiful one. Elaine.
I thought your service was just moms.
Thank you.
It was just moms. I did a passage. You know, we're passing. And it was just moms. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I like to share this week after our service on Sunday, our meeting, and we had a wonderful time, and I was really energized, and I went out to start my week of work and engagement. And Monday went by uneventful, and then Tuesday morning I got a call from one of my fellow Legionnaires. I'm a Legionnaire in the American Legion, and he informed me that our commander was killed in a motorcycle accident. He died that morning, which was a shock. He's younger than I am. He's a vibrant guy, and he was like a real, go-to person. We were planning a million things that we were going to do together, and I had been looking forward and just planning. So it was devastating when it happened, and it's a whole group of men on the executive board of the Legion that had to come together, and because he was the glue that kept everything together, chaos ensued. But out of it, we became stronger, and we became more harmonious with one another, because we were first reminded that the reason why this person, who we all love so much, kept us all together was because he was a perfect example of how to love others and always reach out to help whenever asked. And with that example, we had to come together and learn how to cooperate and live with one another and become better at what we do and have a better understanding of how to work together to achieve our objectives, as opposed to just having the commander who kept us together and kept us from being at odds. So that was my experience that I wanted to share.
Thank you for sharing. An invitation to develop your inner commander.
Yes.
Okay. Anyone else? Vegan.
I love the ideas. It's such a lovely reminder of changing, because in the moments that so many things happen in our life and we get ourselves stuck or with difficulties in touch or whatever is the lesson, it's just so consoling to remember that our Father is the pilot.
Mm-hmm.
And I think just keeping that in mind is a possibility for us to eliminate unnecessary drama and suffering that we do because we don't have that trust. So it was a lovely reminder. Don't let us forget. Remind if I forget.
Okay, all right. I'll tell the story from time to time. I really like it. Okay, all right. So wonderful. So let's go to the... there are a few new people. We're going to go to the second part of our meeting this morning, which is the work of passes. We're going to do a very short prayer, and then some of us will go into the room on the back, and somebody will help you to go over there, and we'll do the passes, just transfusion of energy from ourselves, magnetic and spiritual. Nothing miraculous, nothing, you can choose to go or not, you don't have to, okay? So, let's do a prayer. Just asking God in this moment to be with us. God knows much better than each one of us what is our real need. God knows deeply our souls, our troubles, our agony, anxieties, doubts, fears, everything, because He's our Father. And so we ask Him to allow the good spirits in this moment to the work of passes to give us the good energies of the universe, of harmony and of peace that can penetrate our physical and spiritual bodies, bringing us harmony, comfort that we need to leave here today feeling a little bit better, a little bit more uplifted, a little bit happier, whatever, carrying with us whatever might be that we need the most in this moment. And we also ask God to help us, above all, to learn how to keep this harmonic state within ourselves as we live here today, through prayer, to self-knowledge, to meditation, vigilance, through the inner work that we invited to do. So please be with us and bless us in this moment. Thank you, and so be it. We come to the end of our meeting, so I invite you to join me in the final prayer for today. Saying, Dear Father, it is with immense gratitude that we come to the end of our meeting today. We would like to thank you so very much for the opportunity that we had to be here today. We would like to thank you for this place that opens its doors and allows us to be here speaking about life, speaking about the meaning of our existences, speaking about hope, speaking about the reasons why we're here, and reminding ourselves each and every time we come here that we are immortal spirits created by your love to love each day more and more. We ask you to help us as we leave here to be courageous, to be strong in the commitment to renew ourselves, in the commitment to grow, in the commitment of being proactive in our spiritual enlightenment. So sooner than later we can find and experience more and more peace and happiness, true happiness, deep in ourselves. We ask you in this day that we celebrate Easter. We ask for the entire humanity, for so many people, so many of our brothers and sisters whose names we don't know, but that we know are in darkness, in unawareness, living life as if there is nothing else, unaware of their own potentialities, unaware the happiness in its real sense is available to all of us. We pray for them, we pray for a better world, we pray for ourselves. Before praying for anyone else, we pray for ourselves to ask you for the strength to make sure that every day is Easter in our lives, that every day we are more awake to the spiritual realities, that every day we can vibrate more and more love from within our hearts in a way that we can be happier and make the ones around us happier as well. Once more, we thank you for all the blessings of this morning. We ask you to expand the vibrations of love and peace that we experience right now to our homes, to our family members, to our loved ones, no matter where they are, if they are with us here in this plane, or if they are in the spiritual realm, wherever our loved ones are, may they feel our thoughts, our vibrations, may they be blessed by your love. Thank you, dear Father, for everything. May the peace that we feel in this moment remain with us throughout the week until we gather again here in the next weekend. Thank you, and so be it. Thank you very much, and happy Easter to everyone.